what like specific results have we gotten?
Um, Specific results that we've gotten is we've gotten, just shy of $200,000 in actually signed contracts, and probably 80% of that has, already paid deposits and down payments. And gosh, like 5 of those jobs are already done.
Thanks for taking the time to hop on, Nate. Would you be able to give kind of like a brief intro of kind of like your business, what you're doing right now?
Yeah, yeah. First year, kind of branching out on my own, focused specifically on tear off and re-roofs, mostly retail. So really no insurance, to be honest. We'll do like fascia and gutters, and stuff like that. But I will do siding. But my really just primary focus is tear off and re-roof. 20+-year-old roofs. So
Sweet. Yeah, man. This is the end of our first month working together, and you've had some crazy success. Definitely one of my top clients. So just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
yeah.
I guess with the system that we installed, what have you seen so far?
Well, the thing is I've been selling for a number of years and utilizing another platform, Angie Leads, and you know I'm a pretty good closer, so I can justify the cost and stuff that goes with that. But honestly, man, I was just really looking for an alternative, for a couple different reasons. One, I just at least wanted to get the opportunity to talk to these folks, get in front of them a little bit, and with that other platform, you're just kind of another number. And I was exploring, and I was getting a lot of calls. When you open up a business and start a business, you get inundated with calls from marketing companies and so on. And one of the things that really set apart you was right from the get-go. I mean, I've been in sales a long time, so good salespeople like being sold.
Yeah.
And so when I got on the phone and the person said what they said, which was, "Hey, this is a sales call. Would you mind hearing me out, or do you want to throw the phone out the window right now?" And for me, I was like, "Hey," I think my response was, "I may hang up at any time, but I really like that line, so I'm gonna go ahead and listen to what you have to say." And so that's kind of how we came together. But yeah, I was really just looking for an alternative, man, that made a little bit more sense business-wise, financially, and maybe could give me a little bit better quality leads, even just a little bit. And so what you presented to me seemed to meet that. And after working with you for a month, you've exceeded that for me. So
Thank you. Yeah, with what you were doing before, I know you're doing a mix of Angie's. I guess what were you like mainly struggling with before? I guess could you go like deeper on that?
yeah, the biggest struggle was you get a lead. Um, it's all about like this hurry, 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 which, speed is important for sure, but you're
Mhm.
also competing against lots of other contractors. And so you try and put yourself in the homeowner's perspective, like they are all of a sudden they click a button and now there's 5 for their phones ringing left and right. And it's this guy and that guy. And they're like, whoa. And so all of a sudden, if you're a good, honest, person doing your business, like you're now sort of viewed as like just this number, and like you're clamoring to try and get their attention. And I don't mind competing against other people. Like competition's great. But
Yeah.
the biggest frustration was that I would get a lead, I would reach out immediately, I would not get a response, I would not get any contact, and I would continue my follow-up process, and I never got to talk to them. And then, all of a sudden it was $239 for that person that I never even got to contact. And so that was probably the biggest frustration. It wasn't necessarily the money. It was more so that I didn't get a chance to talk to them and actually like meet them in person. I'm very confident in the way that I do things, in my process, in my system. And so all I want is the opportunity to get in front of them. And if I don't get it, no problem at all. Like I'm fine with paying for a lead that I got a chance to, get the job, but just someone else wanted out. No problem. The biggest frustration was just that there was lots of times that I never got to talk to these people and charged. And then there was also times where, dude, one of them came in and like I called him real quick. It was literally like a 7-year-old child, and I'm like, "Hey, is your mom there?" Like, and they're like, "Do I know you?" And then I tried calling back and never got, and then I disputed that one. I'm like, "Hey, like and then the reasons that they give for the disputes rarely are the reason that you didn't get to talk to them, or that it's not a real lead. And so you pick something and then they disqualify you because it wasn't that well, they verify that like what you picked off the list like isn't valid. And you're like, okay, so then you got to take the time to call them, talk to a manager, explain the situation, and then maybe get a credit. I don't got time for that in my business. So that was the biggest frustration. And yeah, we can dive in. Whatever your next question is, great, but like I could dive into what my experience has been with you in that regard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you want to just contrast kind of working with me versus what was happening before and kind of how it's different, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's majorly different, in the sense of, here's the biggest thing that I appreciate about working with you, and that is your interest seems to be mostly on, like making things run smoother, optimizing the ads.
Yep.
There was a time where a couple of things went on my calendar, then they disappeared. You called me immediately, said, "Hey, I don't know if you saw those or not, but they removed. They just weren't. I was testing some stuff. They were not good leads, so I removed them. And so every time every it seems like your genuine interest is to optimize the system, keep the cost down, and you also take the time to call and talk with these people. And so the experience right from the get-go, was good. And I was kind of, honestly like wondering, are these leads even going to be good? Because I really let you run with the ad. I didn't really give you a lot of feedback because I feel like that's your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I look at the ad and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work or not. Like I really don't. It has worked great. And I think the biggest difference in working with you and working with some of these other, agencies or whatever is that, you seem to care a little bit more or a lot more about what's being spent, getting at least a bit of a quality lead that I get to go out to an appointment. There's been times where I've gone to an appointment and they've said this and that. And then I go, oh, you talked to Tristan? And they're like, yeah. And it's always been positive, response from them about talking with you. And so, yeah. And the quality of leads, honestly, dude, is I think better, to be honest, than the Angie leads were. And sometimes these folks are also exploring Angie leads and also meeting with me, but I think there's a separation factor there that's a little bit different. And they chose to click on our ad. They chose to, and then you get on the phone with them and talk with them, and it just kind of like bumps us up a little bit in credibility. And so when I show up, there's just a different type of vibe. It's not I'm one of 6 guys that is, clamoring to get them. It's like, oh, hey, I clicked on your ad, and I've gotten actually really good compliments on the ad. Like they're like, hey, I really liked your ad, and here's what I liked about it. I like that you're local. I like that you're not one of the big guys with all the expenses and this and that, which is all very true. Like that's one of the other things that I liked in the beginning of talking with you was that you're like that I would explain to you like, hey, I'm kind of small and I with overhead, and then you translated that into the ad, and so it's all truth, And so when I'm out there and I'm like, yeah, I'm born and raised in North Idaho and so on, and if you know anything about Idaho, like they appreciate that, they like that, and so being local, being small, all that kind of stuff, and so yeah, just across the board, man. It's been a great experience. It is absolutely an alternative, a better alternative from what I was doing before. I actually shut my leads off with Angie Leads, I think like 10 days ago, and I don't plan on turning them back on. So that was my goal. So I'd say in the first 30 days, I was able to transition from what I was doing before to completely be over and just working with you. And I would rather spend more money with you and continue and grow than to spend money anywhere else. I mean, here's the deal. If anybody else watches this, when it comes to owning your business and marketing, like how many phone calls do you get? And I'm somebody who comes from the gym business. So I've hired and fired probably close to 20 marketing firms in the last, 15 years that overpromise and underdeliver across the board. Oh, I'm going to get your cost per lead down to this. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, you're going to have this much business. Oh, da, 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 da. It's all this fluff, and you pay them, and then it's just not there. That's been my experience for the most part. And I can honestly say, like, I would say, Tristan, including my fitness, you are one of the absolute top marketing guys that I have ever worked with that actually said that they can do this. And if it works how I think it's going to work, it's going to do this. And it actually came true, and it actually was what you said it was going to be. And in my experience with you, I think 196,000 in the first 4 weeks in sales is pretty fucking radical. So it's exceeded what, I kind of started out with, like, hey, if I could do this with him, it would be great. I doubled that,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I try really hard to be one of the best and ultimately like really caring about every one of my clients, which I know is hard to do if you're like a large agency or you have so many people, that kind of stuff. Like we don't really do that. So it's more of like a personal relationship. But I guess what were you like skeptical in the beginning about anything? I know you got a cold call, right? How many times do people end up doing business from those? But I guess like what were your main concerns?
When you're starting out a business, you've really got to be careful about your spend. And it's expensive, like to start a business. And so you really are cautious about where you're putting your money. So yeah, I was absolutely skeptical. Like I said, I've got a history of working with marketing companies over the years. And what you're skeptical of is just spending money and not getting any sort of return. And so I was 100% skeptical, and I could still get sales calls and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, like you've got to, you can't just, put a wall up and be completely closed-minded to everything and just shove everybody off. So like I said, I was looking for an alternative, very skeptically, obviously, because, there was a model there that I was using that worked, but it was more expensive, less of a conversion rate, less of a show rate, like all the numbers were less. So yes, it worked and you could make money, but boy, if I could optimize this, and if I could find somebody that, is kind of like the analytical brain that, like a tech dude. I won't use nerd because you're not a nerd. You're not a nerd. Like most of the tech guys are freaking nerds. You're actually seem like really cool. So you're a tech guy, not a tech nerd. But to find somebody that's like into stuff and maybe they're as good at that stuff as I am at selling, would be just a great match. And so, I have this in my head, like, oh, it'd be great to find this. And then I get this, cold call. And I just, like I said in the beginning, like that catchy line, like, I appreciate that. And I think that, that's outside the box. And this person's already relating to my frustration because, yeah, I kind of do sometimes when I'm driving my truck around all day long. I want to just throw my phone out the window. So, when they said that, I just kind of like put my guard down and I kind of laughed and I was like, okay, cool. You know what? This person gets it a little bit. So I'm going to listen to what they have to say. And I'm sure glad that I did. So yes, I was skeptical, very much so. But from the very first conversation, my guard was down and I've been pleasantly surprised and very pleased ever since.
Yeah. That's good because I think you've told me before, and you kind of mentioned here with some of the other agencies or marketing people you've worked with, like you've been burned before, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then how did like being burned before by maybe somebody who like didn't know what they were doing, or maybe just outright was just down to like take money and not provide a service, which unfortunately sometimes I see in the space. I guess how did that affect your like skepticism or your trust or like going into this, what you thought might happen?
Well, I think what happens when that happens is, yeah, and I think it was I think it was more so people that maybe just didn't care or didn't know
Mhm.
as much and how to do it. Like maybe their intentions were good, but they just did not have the knowledge or the focus like you do about optimizing things. But what it does is when you trust somebody, you build a relationship with them, you think they're gonna perform on their end, and then they don't, but yet they still get paid. Very frustrating, obviously. But what it does is it kind of, I mean, it puts your guard up, man. For me,
Yeah.
what it did is I'm kind of old school, like I said, from the gym business. And if you know anything about the gym business, it's very like go out in the street and make shit happen, go knock doors, go do this, go do that, go set up appointments. I mean, the famous saying that my manager told me when I was like 19 and I was starting to work there was, "Hey, what do you got coming in today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have anything, on the books today." And he looked at me and goes, "Well, there's the fucking door. So go out and find some shit. Don't come back till you do." And that's
Yeah.
kind of like the cloth that I'm cut from. So what it did for me was it made me go, I don't need any marketing people. All they do is talk a bunch of big talk and they don't fucking perform and they don't care. They just want to get paid. So I'm gonna go. I just said I'm gonna go knock doors. I'm gonna go make this shit happen on my own, which
Right.
can be done, but I can tell you like I like this much better than going and knocking doors. I do knock doors around the jobs that I'm doing, but it made me kind of go into a mentality of like I don't need a marketing company. Fuck all those guys. I'm just gonna go do all this on my own. Which
Mhm.
is a tall order. So yeah.
Yeah, as somebody who used to, I actually used to be a sales rep in the industry, selling the roofs door to door even, and
Yeah.
just having to knock doors every single day to not knowing when your paycheck, like when your next paycheck's going to be, that man, that like is so not fun for reps. And some people probably have a team of door to door people, which
Mhm.
I'm sure it works great, but I know the churn is high on those. I just wish as a ex sales rep when I was in the industry, if I had this system and I just had appointments being booked on my calendar and they're like, hey, these people are warmed up, go sell them. I probably would have never left my job as a sales rep.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, in sales in general, self-producing sales is really the game. And so if you get into a mentality of like, I have to produce X, Y, Z, and everything that just comes to me, like booked warm appointment, is icing on top. And if you
Yeah.
were to kind of operate from that place, you'd be wildly successful. So yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, and I love that system. I mean, people are like, hey, how's your business going? And I'm like, honestly, way better than I even thought it would be. And I'm only 3 months in, one full month working with you. Um, so yeah, you're right. The system is a great system. I highly recommend anybody that is very far away from where I am to use this system. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I guess also with that hesitation or the concerns, I guess what made you really like say yes to like getting started and like actually becoming partners?
A couple things. One, the genuineness, being able to talk with you directly, jump on FaceTime. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and you seem legit and genuine. And two was the onboarding process was pretty easy. And then you are very fair priced. And then one other thing is your structure of the way you structure the business, as far as I'm going to put an appointment on your calendar. I'm going to call and at least talk with them a little bit, kind of do
Mhm.
like a light qualification with them, ask them a couple questions, put it on your calendar, and then I don't pay you unless I actually get to pull up to their house
Yeah.
and talk with them. That right there was probably the deal sealer for me. So it's like I can kind of trust the guy. He seems legit, at least on a screen.
Mhm.
And he doesn't seem like he wants all this crazy money up front. I mean, yeah, there's a setup fee, but I can tell you, like, whatever the setup fee is worth it. It's fucking I mean, think about it. I just did just shy of $200,000 in 4 weeks. So I mean, the setup fee, I see why you have that. But everything just seemed fair, and then the structure that you have as far as what you charge seemed manageable for me. Like, okay, you know what, this I can afford to try, and there's no like long-term commitment, right? It was like, hey, let's try this for a month. You're like, let me try this for a month, and let's see if this works for both of us. And if it does, we keep rock and rolling. And if it doesn't, then we part ways. It just seemed very, honest and straight up and genuine. And that has been what my experience has been, all the way up until now. So
Absolutely. And then just kind of on that front with the kind of like before we partnered, you're like, hey, this guy seems trustworthy. It seems like he knows what he's talking about. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but would you say that now after working together, that's kind of solidified? Or how do you feel about those things now?
yeah, I mean, you can take the word kind of out of there. It's 100% solidified, man. I'm a very straight shooting, straightforward, no bullshit type of guy. And there's no kind of about it. I mean, Tristan, you've done exactly what you said you're going to do. And you have delivered on what you said you were going to do. Like I said, it's important when I show up to a place that the customer has at least some sort of openness to buying a roof, maybe a positive experience or conversation that they've had with you. You've done nothing but help the percentage of closing with the way that you're doing things. So yeah, my skepticism was 100% there, but now after working with you for 4 weeks, man, there's no skepticism. You've completely done exactly what you said you're going to do, and then some. So
Sweet. It's good to hear. I guess looking at what we've done in the 4 weeks, what like specific results have we gotten?
Specific results that we've gotten is we've gotten, just shy of $200,000 in actually signed contracts, and probably 80% of that is, already paid deposits and down payments. And gosh, like 5 of those jobs are already done. So, across the board, like I'm booked out weeks right now. I had to bring on another crew. The profit, I mean, I'm still kind of calculating profit percentage and stuff like that as we're going, but there's decent profit on every job. Not one time have I gotten an objection about, the price that's stated in the ad. Everybody knows, they're like, well, my roof's pretty big. So I just figure because you're saying that price that I'm going to get a pretty good price on my roof, which is totally the case. So yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, we have, we've really set the groundwork here for a very big first year. I mean, I can just tell you that I have sold roofs at another roofing company. I actually won an award for my sales at another roofing company. And as of right now, in, less than 3 months of being open and with 4 weeks working with you, I've exceeded what I got an award for, working for another company. So my goal was to kind of get an early jump on the season, because where I'm at, it's seasonal. We get a pretty gnarly winter here with snow and all the rest of it. So I wanted to get out in March, and get rolling, and so I just did, like I said, the other agency or whatever, and then we kind of kicked off. And so the biggest thing that I think that we've accomplished here is sales are great, but I have 6 5-star reviews on my Google page now. I've gotten 3 of them just in the last like 2 weeks from people that you set up that I out and closed and that we've completed their roofs. And so, but one of the biggest things was that I wanted to transition over to a better alternative for marketing that was more cost effective, that brought the quality of lead up a little bit. And you've helped me accomplish all that. So I don't plan on turning Angie Lee's back on. And to do that in 4 weeks, working with you for you to kind of like, hey, let me show you what I can do. And if this, and also another thing is you weren't like, this is going to, you're going to produce this. You're going to produce this. You're like, hey, let me do this. Let me get this dialed in and figured out. And if this works how I think it's going to work, you're going to be really, really happy with working with me. And that also was another thing that I liked. It wasn't like, I'm going to do this number for you. I'm going to do this number for you. Because then people are like, even if you do close to that, you're like, yeah, but you didn't do what you said you're going to do, right? So you were very like, you were very specific about like, hey, here's what I've seen some really great success doing X, Y, Z. Let's partner, let's do this, and let me see what I can do for you. And then, if it works, let's keep working together. And so that was kind of all in the beginning was important to me. And then you set yourself up for success there because you've knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. And you didn't, say specific things, and you've exceeded my expectations, right? So now I'm like, I want to work with this guy for the next freaking, 10 years straight and then retire. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Absolutely. And if anybody's watching this who would kind of be like on the fence, like maybe they've gotten a call from me or they saw one of my ads and they're just kind of on the fence about maybe hopping on a call or even doing the program, what would you say to them?
I would say, based on experience, working with you, that this is probably one of, if not the best opportunity to get out and build your business, because there's a lot of different, marketing options out there. But there's very few that actually care. There's very few that don't overpromise and underdeliver. And, I can't say it enough times. Like, my experience has been incredible so far working with you. Now you have to be able to sell on some level, right? Like you don't close them for me, but what you do is you set them up you tee it up perfectly. It's great. So if I were, to say to somebody looking at this as an option, I have extensive history in sales and working with marketing companies. This is absolutely a good way for you to start your business at a reasonable cost and build and work with somebody that, from my experience, seems to care, and is not trying to price gouge me, is not all about profit, but is more so about building a relationship and a partnership. Because I think that Tristan sees the bigger picture here, and when he gets somebody that is a good business person, that has good sales, that has good intentions, that can be a very profitable thing for both people, for you and for me. So I would say you'd be a fool not to take a call and jump on with Tristan and go for it.
Absolutely. And just to kind of note, we do work with kind of like all different types of companies. Like one of our most recent clients who's in Miami, he has a sales team of like 10 guys, and they're just like wanting to pump out appointments. So that's kind of like how we have that set up. We really do kind of have a range of guys who might be like a owner operator, like first year, they're just getting the business off the ground. And then people that are like, I need to fill up my sales team's calendar.
Oh.
There's kind of both of that. Would you say that this has kind of been like an expense or like an investment?
100% investment.
Okay. And what would you say to people who kind of maybe they have goals for their business, but they have some limiting beliefs or maybe like struggle with actually investing in their business?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I totally get that. But at the end of the day, you know, like I like your question, is an expense or an investment? I mean, an investment is truly something that you're going to put, you have to put something out. You have to put, you know, you have to invest. And then your hope is you get a return, right? So that's why it's an investment, not an expense. An expense is like, I'm paying for this and then kind of that's it, right? So this is an investment with a potential, and in my experience, a huge ROI, you know? So I would say this: anytime that if you're in business or you're starting a business or you're running a business and you want to grow it, you're going to have to do some sort of investing, whether that's financially, whatever it is. So when we're talking about marketing, we're talking about appointments, we're talking about leads. In my opinion, this is probably one of the smartest investments that you could make, because I've been burned. I've been screwed over. I've had people tell me they're going to do this and do that, and they didn't. This is an opportunity to actually have somebody that is going to have your best interest in mind and do what they say they're going to do. So you are going to have an opportunity to fill your calendar, to get the sales that you're after with working with Tristan's program. That is just the facts.
All right, perfect. That pretty much wraps up just the interview. Nate, you've been a great client to work with, and I see our relationship more as a partnership, and ultimately been a super good business relationship on my end.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. And I appreciate how you operate, and you're a good communicator. You seem to be very much available. You know, probably even more so than I am. So, which is great. Yeah, so I feel the same way, man. At this point, I'm like, you know, I need you, you know, as much as you need me. So it's a great relationship, and I'm excited to continue working with you and see what we can do here, man. I mean, I think we're gonna have a pretty spectacular first year here.